IBGR as a call sign as a radio station, but we are so much more than a radio station. We are a network of global entrepreneurs coming together to create a shared space for collaboration and business success, your success. I'm your host Jan Robberts, the inspirational entrepreneur, and this is episode 2 of Your Story, Your Voice, Your Time. A confident entrepreneur helps their people find their voice in our people lane, people skills for success at ibgr.network. Now, you can go to our website at ibgr.network and download the show notes. I nearly said show notes wrong again. But yeah, of course, I've already mentioned it, but also if you haven't downloaded our app yet, please do so and connect, because there is so much on our app as well. You can learn more about all the 40-odd show hosts from around the world. You can download our podcast. You can listen to our podcast. You can connect to our community. But also on our website, there is a pulsating orange question mark, but if you have any questions or anything at all, ask the questions, give comments, because you are important to us, and we want, if there is anything that you see that you would like to be discussed in the people lane, as far as I'm concerned, and in the other lanes as well, of course, that you would like to learn more about, let us know, and we will talk into it. And maybe not the next session, but one of our sessions, we'll certainly talk into it wherever it suits best. But you are important, so we want you to guide us to what you want to hear on the shows. But today it's story time. Now you might say, why stories? We're trying to run a business, we're trying to build a business. I'm talking through this, why stories are important, and I'm also giving you examples of famous entrepreneurs, a little bit of their stories, so to give you a little bit of an idea. But I will connect the entrepreneur and story together in a little bit. But I'm going to go through some. I mentioned 6 points in the first session, which I'm going to run through just now, to give you an overview of stories, because it is indeed very important. But I'm going to give you another short story. I finished off with what you call him again, Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now another very famous one, Walt Disney. Now, after serving in World War II, Walt Disney worked a few odd jobs to make ends meet. He had an interest in art and animation from a young age, but not any formal education or professional experience to show for it. He launched a few different animation studios before eventually finding success. Now there is a little bit more to it, because the amount of investors and banks who turned him down for the Disney World parks was unbelievable. And of course, you might have heard that story already. But do you really think this can become a reality? They asked him. And Walt Disney answered, I've already seen it. See, he was a true visionary person. And I love those creative people working at Disney, because they're called Imagineers. Now, what are you imagining about your future? What is your story? What is your vision about your future? It's very important. But the stories of all these successful entrepreneurs, and whether they're famous or not, big or small, you can find those stories, and you should be able to find those stories the same way as they can find your stories, and the same way you should connect your story so far to inspire and to get investors. I'm going to talk into that, but I mean, it is very inspiring for people to hear why you got to where you are right now. What made you become an entrepreneur? What made you take that step from being secure in your comfort zone to stepping out there in the wild west of entrepreneurship and trying to make it work? And this is why we're helping you. We don't just want you to try and make it work. We want to help you make it work. So I'm going to go into these six reasons why stories matter. And it's fairly universal, but it'll matter to you as well. Well, stories are universal. See, every culture has stories to tell. These stories form a basis of how we think about the world and live our lives. Even that tells something about you. Stories preserve culture and pass on cultural knowledge from one generation to the other. In essence, stories keep cultures alive. Stories provide a timeless link to ancient traditions, legends, myths, and archetypes. Through stories we share passions, fears, sadness, hardship and joys, and we find common ground with other people so that we can connect and communicate with them. Now that's a powerful part already. In business as well. People like to do business with those they know, like and trust, but also with those they connect at a human level with. And stories do that. I hope it makes sense. But stories are universal, conveying meaning and purpose that helps us understand ourselves better and find commonality with others. Now, these last 2 points already pertain to an entrepreneur for sure. If you are not sure yet, start putting your story together. But stories help us to understand our place in the world. See, stories transcend generations. They create connections with others. It is through stories that we experience rich emotions and feelings of joy, sorrow, hardships and failures. See, we learn about behaviors and consequences. Stories, they actually show us what we have in common with others and what we learn to engage with others in spite of our differences, as we come to understand those who are where they are and where we stand in the world. So it's again that whole connection weaves through stories. It gives us an opportunity to experience narratives in our imagination as if they were real and feel raw emotion, even though the reality of our experience is only in listening to the story. Now, your brain experiences imagined narratives as if they were real, which is very important, and that is for your clients as well, and anybody else, suppliers, possible joint venture partners. There's a little difference between how our brain processes information when we read or hear stories and when we experience reality. See, to our brain it's all the same. Now there's a whole different part which I'm going to talk about, mind power as well. I'm going to talk into that. But through such rich experiences, we come to understand our unique perspective and our place in the world, and other people will start to understand that too. Now, stories help us to learn how to act wisely. See, stories make us human. That's what really is important. There are a great many lessons to be learned from stories. See, the human brain is hardwired to communicate through stories. So does it not make sense then, as an entrepreneur, we start putting some stories together as well that really help us convey our message, convey our vision, convey our message and our products and our service to the world, why you did this kind of stuff. So, and through stories we understand many aspects of life, including social norms. That's how we learn what is right and what is wrong, through lived experience and stories. See, you can actually put in there that maybe in your story somewhere you actually found out that you were on a journey in a business that there was no integrity, there was deceit and all that kind of stuff, and you needed to step out. Even that kind of story will tell you that you are above that. That you are, so you can put that kind of story together. But there is a lot of it. But for centuries, stories have been used to pass on knowledge, and in its purest form, stories teach us good from bad and how to act wisely with others in social situations and on a personal level, while we also learn about the consequences of not doing so. And as you know, children love stories, but stories also help us to shape our perspective in the world. Well, everyone has a story to tell. You have yours, and if you pay close attention to your story, you will realize that your stories are collections of your experiences. In the same way, when you hear stories, you come to realize that you share the same fundamental experience as others, and yet your experiences differ from each other because everyone has different experiences. But here, there's another thing. You come to realize that you share the same fundamental experiences, and that again is where you connect on a human level with other people, with your clients, with potential customers. When you can tell them a story about why and where, it's so important. Stories help us to understand other people and their perspective. Now that is, you imagine being a client or a potential customer or a potential investor. But have you noticed how you are drawn to someone when they tell their story, or how people around you are attentive when you share your story about your own life? Now this is the part. Stories have a way of transporting us from our realities, and our mind opens up to new experiences and perceptions of other people and how they think and feel. See, you'll bore most people with presentation about financial numbers. Just about any room of people will be captivated by a decent story. So if you have a decent story, anybody can get captivated. Now that story should be true, of course, and it should be yours. But simply put, stories help you learn to empathize with other people as you come to understand their point of view. In fact, research shows that reading makes you more empathetic. Now that is very interesting. And story pass down knowledge and morals. So we know that some of the most exceptional teachers and luminaries from different cultures have passed on wisdom throughout time. And they have done so primarily through stories. But also, there was parables containing morals. If you want to transfer knowledge across many generations, the way to do so before the internet was to tell stories. But now, if you are already reasonably successful in life, then you have stories to thank for it, because that's how you learn much of what you know, and that's how your parents and ancestors learned too. So, because stories play such a a foundational role in our culture and our behavior. We will continue to pass on this knowledge to future generations through stories, whether new or old. So, really, why stories matter? Now, even as technology presents so many dynamic opportunities to create new content, humans will still crave stories so we can make sense of the world. Now, the more information we create, the more valuable stories become, because without them we lose perspective on what matters. And in a world with more information than ever, it's harder and harder to discern which information truly matters. Stories help us solve that problem. If you want to know how to solve a specific problem, you'll need information, and you can get it from many sources and in many ways. But if you want to know how to live well, you'll need stories. And there's no substitute for that other than living your own story, making mistakes and learning as you go on. Stories will always matter now and in the future. And in the last session I will give you some steps to develop your story. Now here's another one. Ray Kroc. Well, Ray Kroc met the McDonald brothers while working as a traveling salesman for a food processing equipment company. He had worked a few jobs since serving in the armed forces during World War I, but didn't have any formal business education. He offered his services to the brothers who were looking for a new franchise agent, and together they made McDonald's a household name. Now again, short part of a story, but you know the story, but you know, everybody knows who Ray Kroc is. Everybody knows how the McDonald brothers became one of the world's biggest names in fast food. So you'll get the idea there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take another 2 to 3 minutes short break, and when I come back we'll talk more into stories, why they're important to entrepreneurs and why you should create your own story. So join us at ibgr.network, and I will see you in a few minutes. Don't go away.